Dave, do you have a good piece of advice for up and coming instructional designers?
Good piece of advice. I'll give you three pieces of advice. I'm not
Awesome.
sure if they're like amazing, but they're ones that have always helped me get better at what I do and continue to get better at what I do. So the first thing is like I took this from you because you've always told me this: be so good they can't ignore you, which means just get really, really, really good at one thing. Whatever in instructional design interests you the most, get amazing at that thing.
Mhm.
And then through that, you'll be competent in all the things that surround that or are attached to it. And then your skill level in that will grow. It'll just be through the frame of that one central interest of yours. And that'll lead to other areas of expertise, and you'll become more innovative that way. You'll have more like implicit knowledge that you can make explicit and help other people learn what you know. And then you learn you think of things on a more intuitive level when you have that level of knowledge, and that makes you invaluable to any institution that you're working for, because you can look at a problem and you know exactly where to start at very least.
Excellent.
So like whether it's needs analysis or media or activity or assessment design, focus on that thing and get amazing at it. That would be my first piece of advice. The second is,
Hey, Dave, could I
yeah,
check 1 second? Um, did you narrow into one thing that you become really, really good at and people come to you for in your work?
yeah. So when I was first learning about this very niche field
Mhm.
and super interesting field, I was really interested in theory, instructional theory, and cognitive psychology. And I just took a deep dive and was like basically mainlining it for a couple of years. And I could see how I could make these abstract ideas more concrete and help them come to fruition uh, in a piece of instructional material. And I would do that by creating media explainers a lot of the time about those theories, which made me actually pretty good at media, which is like my title now at Columbia is Associate Director of Instructional Design and Media. So
Right.
they slotted me in after years of being an instructional designer, seeing what I could do with media, and they were like, "Do you want this job?" And I was like, "Yeah." So like my interest in theory, and coupled with me tinkering around with a thing to make it come to life in the corporal world,
Yep.
led to me being pretty good at a very specific targeted skill, which is creating instructional media. Not
Right.
like entertainment media, I suck at that, but instructional media specifically, I've
Right.
become quite good at. So that's why I kind of give that piece of advice, because like you can't be good at everything. And if you try to do that, you spread yourself too thin. It's like the like chaos theory or entropy or whatever. Like the more a system expands, the more energy you need in order to maintain it. So the more things that you're trying to learn at once at a high level, the more taxing that's going to be on you, and it's going to be harder to get to that level for you. So focus on one thing and
Perfect.
then go deeper on that and spread out on that.
Gotcha. So that's one. Two.
Oh yeah. So two would be never piss off anyone that can hurt you by doing nothing.
Okay.
That's a quote by a guy who he was like an FBI negotiator. His name's Chris Voss.
Oh yeah, sure.
That is okay. Yeah,
Uh,
I heard him say that once, and I was like, yeah, that's really really great advice. Yeah, like what would you take away from that quote? Like,
well, what I would take away from that quote is always be open and work with people, but at the same time, make sure that if you're in charge, make sure you have a setup where if something doesn't get done, it doesn't collapse the whole project. In other words, you can move forward. If by some chance someone decides to do nothing, doesn't mean that the whole thing gets scrapped. You could get the thing moving, keep it moving, and that's leadership, design, management, you have to set up a situation where the thing is always going to move forward. Is that how you take it?
Yeah, that's how I basically take it. Yeah. Uh yeah, for the most part.
Excellent.
Also, like, the better you are at something, going back to the first thing, um, the more valuable your work becomes. And you'll find that your interactions with people become much more pleasant because other people follow this rule too.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
it's just it kind of is a positive feedback loop in that way. Plus, it like develops trust because everyone is supporting each other in one way or another. That might be like a selfish motivation,
Mhm.
but it's in service of production
Absolutely.
and in service of people being having a measure of psychological safety and all these other things. It's the practice of being good for one reason or another. So there would be number two. And the third thing, and I think this is super, 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 super important
Bring it.
because
What do you got?
it goes so undone.
Ah,
In graduate school, in the professional world, is and this is the advice: read the source material.
yes.
Don't rely solely on blogs and other people's interpretations of other people's interpretations of other people's interpretations of
Sure.
the source material. Goes directly to the source, because like when you get internet resources like blogs and posts and stuff like this, about ideas behind theory, for example, and they haven't read the source material, it's not really rooted in anything solid.
Mhm.
So it's like if you came into a discussion about a movie having never saw the movie, and then going to let's say your friend's house who hasn't seen the movie, and you give him your thoughts about a movie you haven't seen,
Yeah.
that person is going to get a copy of a copy of a copy. And when they do actually watch the movie, they'll be like, what was Dave talking about?
Right.
Because you get this altered version of it. So I would say read the source material, because you'll
Okay.
find that there's a lot of crap out there that keeps getting proliferated, a lot of like harmful learning myths that
Sure.
people design instruction based on, like Dale's cone of experience, for example. Right. Like you learn 10% of what you read, 90% of what you experience, all that. It's absolute garbage. And the source material isn't even that. I mean,
Right.
that thing is a use case for what I just explained
Right.
about when you get your information from someone who hasn't read the source material, they have got their information from someone who hasn't read the source material. Please read the source material.
Okay.
It'll increase, like, it'll give you a way better nuanced understanding of things. It helps you boost your skills in reading science journals and studies, right? Because you'll like, some of those are really hard to read, and you have to kind of learn how to read them. So
Sure.
when you are honest with yourself and you're like, I don't understand this, don't go to the blog that explains it. Go to somewhere that helps you understand what they're talking about in the article, or at least how to read a scientific article or a study, and what those things mean in the study, because those will also influence whether or not you're going to take the conclusion of this theory or practice, and then put it out into your own work. I think that's really, really important. Please read the source material.
Okay. I'm curious as to what you think about this. I don't want to take this into a more learning theory space, because maybe a lot of our audience aren't, don't know a lot about learning theory. But from what you're saying, what immediately came to my mind are two people that most people don't read, but kind of read about, which is for
Can I
me.
guess?
Yes, you guess.
Is one of them Bloom?
Yes.
Ah, yeah, nailed it.